people are so insanely focused on their finances going into retirement. But about 6 months in, your priorities shift from finances to time and your health. You quickly figure out, okay, this money thing works out. How long am I going to be healthy?
Joe Kuhn, welcome to DevKeel, and it's a pleasure to have you on this episode. How are you doing today?
I'm excited to be here, and things are going just great.
Joe, I'm so excited to have you on this episode because part of what we do on DevKeel, one aspect is talking about people's personal finances, right? And I'm really interested to speak with you because a lot of audience members that I speak with personally as well sometimes kind of get lost in the weeds of understanding the importance of saving money, planning for the future, and maybe one day retiring, or if they're aggressive enough in a certain way, trying to get on a fast track for early retirement. This kind of this quote sort of FIRE movement, right? So before we get into the minutia of a lot of these issues, I want to first ask you, what's been sort of your general mini biography, life experience, and when did you retire and how have you been enjoying it so far?
First thing, right now I'm 57. Okay, I retired at 54, so I've been retired right at 3 years now, and I consider myself a dad. You know, you probably weren't expecting that answer. I got 4 children between 24 and 31. So I'm used to dealing with that generation of people, and they get an awful lot of dad advice, okay? So, hey, I grew up in Indiana. I'm a Midwest guy. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I worked at a company, worked in industry, manufacturing for 32 years. I took on leadership roles. I worked as an engineer for 3 years. I was an average engineer. And then I went into leadership, and I was a production leader, a maintenance leader, became a plant manager. I was plant manager at 3, plants over my career. One of the roles I had, I was asked to create my dream role, and did internal consulting for the same company I worked for on reliability and maintenance. And that really, leads into why I started a YouTube channel. I retired at 54, and the advice I give people is retire to something, not from something. So I love the coaching and mentoring of people. I liked finding people in the organization that were like a diamond in the rough. They had some problems that they need to polish out, but they were a talent. And I love finding them and helping them and sharing my experience, sharing failures I've had, successes I've had with those people, and growing. Well, when I was 54, I wasn't getting enough time doing that coaching and mentoring. I was running a business, and that was just taking up 70% of my time. So I said, hey, I'd like to start my own consulting business. Okay, so consulting in reliability and maintenance. Okay, and that was a subject matter expert I happened to be in, how to drive culture change in that area. But I developed I would say a global expertise. I've written a book. I talk at national conferences, and I started YouTubing on reliability and maintenance. But then a whole lot of people started asking me, how'd you retire so early? So then it got into my Midwestern values of how I was raised, how I treated money, and debt, and saving, and then things kind of evolved from there. So my goal is to help people. I loved my career, but I reached a point where, hey, I financially, I was okay to retire, and I wanted to reach something where I could help people more. And then that reliability and maintenance aspect, where I've written books and I talk at conferences and have YouTube, I started getting a lot of questions about personal finance. And I'm telling you right now, 2/3 of my videos are personal finance. And, I don't give specific financial advice, but I can tell you about my journey, and I can tell you about the emotions that are involved in retirement. And it's a big deal. Just because you have enough money doesn't mean you're not going to have problems in retirement. So I help people bridge that gap from, working life to retirement life. And I enjoy it a lot. And I make a couple videos a week.
Joe's channel is absolutely incredible, and it just has so much amazing wisdom general. So I'm going to include all of his information in the description and pin comments below. So, after you watch this video, check out Joe's channel, subscribe to his channels. And Joe, let's go back to the emotion aspect of it, because I like what you said. You should have in mind, this idea of retiring to something instead of getting away from something. From what I've generally heard from different people who go into a retirement aspect of their life is like, there's this sentiment, I can't wait to get away from these people in this job, and I hope they all die someday, die before while I'm still alive, etc. So like, how are you right now, Joe, emotionally, with your state of being, of the way that you see life, the way you engage with life, the things that you enjoy that you're talking about versus how you were when you were in the job? Like, is there a huge night and day difference, or how are the personal emotional aspects different for you now?
Yeah. I retired. I was plant manager of a 2,000 person plant. Okay. And I worked at least 10 hours a day. I had phone calls in the evening, emails. I worked, and this is not a complaint. I loved my career. I was all in my career. I loved making it all happen and working with great teams and people and building those teams. But I checked email on vacation. I checked email on Saturday and Sunday. I sometimes worked on Saturday and Sunday, would go into the plant. And it was all in, all the time, 100 miles an hour. And I wouldn't trade a thing about it, okay? Then you go into retirement. And it's I call it, and maybe this will relate to people. Well, people don't have stick shift cars anymore, but it's downshifting. It's going off, say you're on the highway going 100 miles an hour down the highway. Now all of a sudden you're on the off ramp and you got to go 30 miles an hour. 30 miles an hour feels like you're walking. So, my retirement, first thing you do, and these are the great joys of retirement. I set my alarm to wake up about 3 or 4 times a year. I love it. I control my time. One of the things that people focus on, I just had a phone call about this right before this call, is people are so insanely focused on their finances going into retirement. But about 6 months in, your priorities shift from finances to time and your health. And because you quickly figure out, okay, this money thing works out. How long am I going to be healthy? And I'm controlling my own time. In my old job, I was there, the work was coming at me. I had 3 or 4 people standing at my door. I was averaging 250 emails a day. So you're sitting there, you got all these emails, you're answering them, you're being real short with answers. You're going to a lifestyle that's much slower than that. And, you got to get used to that speed. It really has slowed down. And then what are you going to fill that time with? I talk extensively about retiring to something, okay? Now a lot of people, just like you said it, they said, "Bet I can't wait. The day I retired, I'm just going to go to the beach every day and sip on a beer and then do the same thing the next day." I'm telling you, with my DNA of running 100 miles an hour, that's not going to make me happy. It'd make me happy for about 3 months to go to the beach, and my wife and I take, 3, 4, 5 vacations a year, going places, seeing the kids. My kids live in real cool locations. But you can't just change your personality at the age of 54 and say, okay, I'm very task oriented. I like getting things done. I like the rewards of making a difference in this world. And now I'm just going to be a slug. That's not realistic. What's realistic is, okay, now at the age of 54, I'm going to control my time. I'm going to produce a YouTube video every other day, every other day. I wrote a book. That's what I did during COVID. I wrote a book. I have phone calls with clients that want to talk to me about reliability and maintenance, want to talk to me about retiring early, want to be a plant manager or a maintenance manager, personal coach to them. I have clients that I work with that I love doing that. And those folks pay me. It's nice income coming in. But I also love to learn. I'm a YouTube junkie. I learn about health. Devin, you have a lot of health videos out there. I've lost 45 pounds. I've lost 45 pounds since I retired. I thought I didn't have stress. If you asked me when I was working, I'd say, man, I got this stuff. I don't have any stress in my life. But the day I retired is like setting down a 10-pound weight. I don't have to think about work all the time. I don't have to think about what's next. I don't have to think about an injury or environmental issue, or it's just the pace slows down, but you're still going to have an enormous amount of time to do something. And humans, and this is what a lot of people get wrong, and this may not be everybody, but it's a huge portion of people. You get your greatest joy out of making an impact in the world. You get your greatest joy out of the journey and in helping others. That's what I believe. That's Joe's philosophy. I'm president of a nonprofit, okay? And we help finance improvements at our city parks is what we raise money for that. And I'm president of it. I help a lot of people. I said I have 20, 30 engagements a day, all emails and all comments, everything I'm doing, I'm just giving that away. I'm working a couple hours a day, just giving away information on whatever topic, give me my experience. But that time, you're going to have to fill it. And there's no way. I love going to the beach. I love going to the mountains. I love seeing the world. Last year we went to a 3-week trip out to Utah, and saw all the national parks out there. Great stuff. But I'm telling you what, that's not going to fill 365 days of the year. And I don't think I'm convinced joy and happiness doesn't come from just sipping on beer at the beach every day. Now, that's hard for somebody working to imagine. Now, but I'm telling you, you do that for 2 months straight, 3 months straight, you'll say, I got to go back to work. And, a percentage of people go back to work because they don't retire to something. So what's your hobby? It's cool if my advice I give to people, find a hobby that you can make a little bit of money in. My hobby is I like helping people. I like coaching, mentoring people in their career, So, hey, if you want an hour of consulting time with me, I'll do that. I don't want it to be too obtrusive to my lifestyle. I don't want to go, I can do all kinds of reliability and maintenance consulting where I go to a plant for 3 months straight. Well, I don't want to do that. But you need to find something to occupy your time that is your gift to the world, and put that in whatever context you want, whether it's spiritual, whatever. But I think humans we evolved to be social creatures, and that you get great satisfaction out of helping people. I'm sure that's why, you produce this YouTube channel. It's why, I make a little money with my YouTube, but it's less than minimum wage. It's a passion project that I get paid a little bit for, and I would do it for free, but YouTube pays me a little bit of money. I'm not going to turn it back in, I'll spend it. But yes, you have a lot of time, and it's an illusion to say, hey, I'm going to retire to the beach and I'm going to do that for 30 years. I have never met that individual. I've never met that individual, and I think it's an illusion. You'll be unhappy. I think get depressed pretty darn quick.
Well, first of all, Joe, congratulations about losing the weight. That's absolutely incredible. And, you got to give me some tips later for that, because I put it on a little bit, since COVID. So, congratulations.
Well, here's my standard answer to that, Devin. Okay. Every time somebody asks me a question, I got a video on that.
There you go. I think I got one of my.
I have a video on that, and so look that up. And but if or if you could send me a comment or an email, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing.
Perfect.
But I do.
Make sure all of our audience checks out Joe's channel and figures that out if they're in that situation. But, and I was quite disappointed. I'm like, I'm going to talk to Joe. He's retired. He's younger than 60. He's got something good going on. I expected when I was going to turn on, this camera and talk to you, I was going to palm trees in the background, hula dancing, limbo, your Hawaiian shirt. I don't know. A big cigar, but that's not the case. But you seem really happy nonetheless, And I really like what you said, Joe, about the joy in the journey, because, you know, especially what you said, when you're thinking about this, especially about retirement and going into that part of your life, if you really dream about getting and phasing into something that you're truly, truly, truly passionate about, that your heart's strings get pulled on, saying, hey, you got to go in this direction, even though the circumstances may not permit now, but at least you can dream about it. So I love that idea about the journey, because like you said, like, it was really interesting what was said. You relevated this idea, like, it doesn't so much become about the finances part of it, but it becomes about, you know, your time and your health. And I think that's absolutely incredible. I want to go kind of more regarding that into your personal situation. And I don't want you to talk about your personal finances, nothing like that, but just maybe the general situation around that. Because what's interesting about, and this will be a two-part question in a way, is that you live in the US, so this may be different depending on the country you're in, but talking about people who are either specifically from the United States, you know, you can apply for Social Security, I think, when you're around age 62. If you have an IRA, that's usually through your employer, there's, I think, a penalty before 59 and a half or something like that. So, and so you're younger, you know, you are actually younger before those two thresholds. And then, you know, Medicare and all that kicks in later. So how do you are able to retire below those IRA thresholds, Social Security, like basically not having that? Maybe I'm wrong with your current circumstances, but how are you able to do what you do financially and also not worry about, you know, healthcare related insurance, or how do you manage that with where you're at?
Well, first of all, you know, I do have an IRA, okay? And I do have, I organize my money into buckets, okay? And that I have a video on that too, but it's a lot of people talk about buckets of money. I have bucket of money that is really, it's not in an IRA, not locked into being 59 and a half. It's a brokerage account. Okay. So I have some money in a brokerage account and I got some cash, and that takes me to, you know, 59 and a half, you know, before I would need to tap into my IRA at all. So you can't just sock, if you want to retire at 54, having $2 million, pick a number, $2 million in an IRA really doesn't help you retire at 54. What are you going to do between 54 and 59 and a half? You have to have a plan for that. I have that basically, it's in an app, you know, I've already paid taxes on the money. It's in a brokerage account, and I have some just in, in the bank, in a savings account, just to get me through. And I do that for market fluctuations too. You know, I have a bucket one money that I have 4 years of expenses just in a savings account, 4 years. Okay. I saved that money. And then I have money in bucket two in more like, some of it's, I'd say 40% in bonds, but 60% in dividend, blue chip kind of stocks is in bucket two, pretty conservative stuff. And then bucket three is money I need after like 8 years that is in, you know, growth stock kind of things. So that's how I'm managing my money. Okay. So yes, you do have to do more when you're early, when you're 20, 25, 30, you're socking money away, hopefully in a Roth IRA. It can be in a, you know, pre-tax. That's all good. Roth is better, but you know, you're socking that away. But once you turn about 45, 40, you have to start saying, okay, when am I going to retire and how am I going to finance that? Okay. That was later in life, about 45 or so, that I really got serious about, okay, now it's time to build my nest egg for, pre 59 and a half. Healthcare is always an issue. Okay. I actually, there's a number of things you could do. I do have a video on healthcare too, because a lot of people, they say they're just working for healthcare. In the United States, we have something called the Affordable Care Act, and you get subsidy. Your premiums are based on your income. So if you retire and you're just living off cash, okay, your income's zero, right? Your income is zero, and you get subsidies, and you can, it's a couple $100 a month for a couple to get healthcare. That's pretty cheap. I actually have some company called Farm Bureau, Indiana Farm Bureau. That's about $800 a month for that. I like that better for reasons I don't want to get into. Well, the short version is the Affordable Care Act. You have to use doctors and in-state institutions. So if you develop a problem, want to go see a specialist, they better be in Indiana. Okay, where Farm Bureau, they can be anywhere in the nation. So that's the short version of that. And I do make a little bit more than the minimum and wouldn't get those low subsidies as well. But you have to have, if you're going to retire early, you've got to have some money that's not tied into an IRA or a 401k. Now, you did mention Social Security too. If you retire, Social Security is, you can get it as early as 62, but that's real early. Your full retirement age is 67 for my age group, and then your full max payment you can get starts at age 70. But it's based on your top 35 years of earning, top 35 years. So if you only work 30 years, you get zeros to go factor into your calculations for the last 5 years. And that's just something to be aware of. And it reduces it a little bit. I worked 32 years out of college, but I worked a little bit in college and I had some decent money there. And I'm making a little bit of money part-time here, so I don't have zeros, but it does reduce it a little bit. So these people that are retiring at 40, that's a big deal. Your Social Security is not going to be much at all. And Social Security is a big deal. Now, don't believe. Now, you may be, if you're 30 years old and you're listening to this, you say, oh, Social Security is not going to be there when I'm 62. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. There's too many people that vote. Every person over the age of 65 votes, every one of them. And there's no politician in the United States that's going to vote to down Social Security. Now, they may reduce it if you have a big pension or if you have $10 million in the bank, they may reduce it. Me personally, this is me looking into the future. Then this is based on other nations, but I think there's going to be a national sales tax. I think they're going to say we're going to charge national sales tax, and it's going to make our national debt go away and fund a lot of these things, and people would be okay with a sales tax. But that's futuristic. That's me predicting. But Social Security, it's a big deal if you retire real early. Social Security, plan on it and factor it into your numbers. I'm planning on taking it at the age of 70 because if you take it at 62, it's reduced. Every year that you wait after 62, it grows 8%. So it's a guaranteed 8% return on your money. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. So I'm planning on pushing mine off to 70 and letting my investments take care of the rest. So,
because with that strategy is this delayed benefit aspect, and it kind of works as an annuity in that case. If anyone doesn't want to SPIA or doesn't want to have, for our audience, we might go in a little technical jargon, but you can look it up yourself because it's an important thing to know regardless, and you should know about it. But the annuity, the SPIA idea of things, even if you don't want to do that, the Social Security can act like that for you in a certain aspect, And so I would say people who are thinking, like in your case, like retiring before 60, essentially, let's just use that as a benchmark. Before 60 years old, whether they're in your particular type of circumstance or like a fire movement, and they want to get it done between 5 and 10 years when they're 35, 40, etc. The most essential things to take into account, especially before 60, would, that come to my top mind, would have to consider, let's say, health insurance being one, and how you figure that out, and what would be the other kind of 2 or 3 other main things to keep in mind?
There's a lot that happens way before 60 that you got. It's really, your retirement. First of all, it's the start of a new journey. It's not a destination, and that's we talked a little bit about that. It's the start of a new journey for you. But there's so many things you got to, there's a few basics you have to get right. Exactly. And unfortunately, you've got to get them right when you're like 18, 25, 30 years old. And if you get these things wrong, you're going to pay for it on through retirement. Okay. For example, And this, tell me if this problem ahead or, this is not what you were looking for. The first thing I tell people, if a 22-year-old or 18-year-old came to me and says, hey, Joe, what's the one thing? Tell me one thing I should do to have a good financial career, have some wealth. What's the one thing? And this may shock you. I would say invest in yourself. The biggest return you're going to get is on investing in yourself. Now, don't take that to mean I want to be a school teacher and I want to go to a $200,000 a year, or not a year, $100,000 a year college for 4 years, $400,000 and get a teaching degree where I'm going to make $40,000 a year. That's not an investment. Okay. That's not it. That's crazy. Now, if you say I want to be a school teacher and that's my passion and that's where I can be good, that's what I want to do. Okay. You're going to make $40,000 a year. I like the Dave Ramsey approach and say you can borrow up to your first year of salary. So you can borrow $40,000 for that. Go to a local college. That's investing in yourself. Now, you don't have to go to college. You can go, what's the investment in yourself? You may, decide to be a welder. You may decide to be a machinist. You may decide to be heating, ventilation, air conditioning expert, plumber, whatever it is. It's an investment. So an investment you have to have the mindset is what return am I going to get on this investment? And if you borrow $400,000 to go to college and you take out a 10-year loan, oh my gosh, you're paying $900 a month for 10 years. Your age 60 is going to be bad because of what you did there. So now say you got that elementary education degree and you got a pension because you're a school teacher, and instead of paying $800 a month to my student loans, I'm taking $800 a month and putting it in my IRA. You're 60 years old is completely different. So that's the one thing, and it's really bad. I feel bad for a lot of millennials is they just said, hey, go to college and study Russian art history, and I owe $150,000 and I can't find a job. Somebody needs to pay off my student loans. Well, it's an investment. Invest in yourself. And when that implies that there's a return. Okay. So you got to do that right. The other, I like being real specific with people, not like, live below your means, okay. What's that mean? Invest in yourself is number one. The second thing, if you get this right, it's just a huge step forward. Automobiles. This is a big problem in the United States. People graduate college. They owe $400,000. They owe $900 a month on that. Then they go out and buy a new car and $600 a month in car payment and $200 a month in auto insurance. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not used to money. Cars, you buy, you go out and buy a $60,000 car. Yeah, that's $500-600 bucks a month car payment. But how much joy do you get out of that? Why not save a little money, go out and buy a $7,000, $8,000 car with 100,000 miles? Go buy I'm a big Toyota fan. Go buy a Toyota with 100,000 miles on it, pay $8,000 for it, and drive it for another 10 years. And then you say, well, no, wait a second. I've already done this math because I preach this all the time. I say, if you do this for your whole career for 30 years, you're paying cash for cars. You take that $500 a month, say that's the difference, $500 a month. You put that in the 10% growth in, S&P 500 fund. You do that for 30 years, you have almost $1.2 million. Just that car move, okay? Now you couple this with investing in yourself, don't borrowing $400,000 to get a teaching degree. Those two things together could probably net you about $2 million by the time you're 60. Everything else is gravy. So those are two simple traps, but people get into them. And I know people that get a new car every other year. And I actually did a video. I got a video on this. I was out in my garage and I drive a 2005 Toyota Camry. Okay. Now I only put 3,000 miles a year on that thing. I'm retired. I don't drive into work all the time. Yeah, but I could go out and pay cash for a new Tesla if I wanted to. But why? What am I doing? Am I trying to impress somebody? What's that about? Cars are investing in yourself in cars. Do those two things right. And you're well down the road. I could add things like, don't buy too big of a house. Things don't buy happiness, like jewelry and clothes and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's good. You get the invest in yourself right, and you get the automobile thing right, you're in pretty good shape.
That's incredible. And maybe even the student, the university aspect of it too, because if people understand more and more which jobs align with their skill set and are in demand and pay well, and they don't have to carry a huge student loan burden for like a mortgage, that can be a deal maker as well, or a deal. That can change the game. My 4 kids,
I showed you my Purdue shirt.
Yeah, that's
my
expensive.
My 4 kids went to Purdue. And this is an advertisement for Purdue. Well, that was away. That's 4 hours away from where I live. But it roughly was $80,000 for the 4 years. Okay. And my kids during the summer got internships in engineering, making $25 an hour. Okay. My kids just through summer jobs paid for almost half their schooling. Okay. Just through their summer jobs. And they got jobs, great paying jobs when they got out. Now, I'm not telling everybody to be an engineer, but it's an investment. You have to think it's going to cost me $80,000. What's my first year of pay? That's how much I can borrow. Can I work during the summers to pay that off? You got to be thinking that as an investment. And I'm telling you, parents are really letting down their kids, and that's I've talked to a lot of kids because their parents don't talk to them. So they through my kids, they'll call me and want some career advice or school advice because I'll give it to them straight between the eyes in simple language that they can understand.
That's incredible, Joe. And unfortunately, there's only a few more minutes I have left with you, but we got to figure out another part 2 in the future because there's like 10 other amazing things I would love to ask you in more detail because you're so knowledgeable and so inspirational on these topics in many ways about life and about everything. 2 main things I want to ask you as we conclude, Joe. One, going back to that issue, just to thread off what you're speaking about related to parents, how can, from your own point of view, how can, we inspire, especially like the younger millennials, Gen Z, the alpha generation coming up to really, really grasp or get I would say more of their heart around this idea for the love of having a secure financial future. I think for the way I see it personally is like, if they fall in love with the idea about the importance of money itself and what it can, the amount of less stress it can bring in their life and sense of security and discipline, how can we go about that in a creative way to really inspire a younger generation?
Well, I think that's what you're trying to do with your YouTube channel, and what I'm trying to do is to say, hey, a little delayed gratification, driving an older car can, really change the whole world 25, 30 years in the future for you. I'm actually very optimistic about the youth. This whole FIRE movement, I didn't hear about this, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think the whole COVID, pandemic has caused people to reflect on what's life for, why am I doing this, and exchanging time for money. And I think they've said, hey, there's more to life than just working 10 hours a day. And I'm really encouraged by the way young people are thinking. Now, I think some people are pushing it too far. They're saying, hey, I want to retire at the age of 35. Well, you're really just growing. You're still growing. I learned in my 40s that I loved, leadership roles. I love coaching and mentoring people and growing people. I love doing that. It was a great career for me, but that turned into my retirement fun. My retirement journey, videos like this is helping people, mentoring people, coaching people along the journey, helping them through life, the fears that they have about retirement, the fears that they have about their career. I wouldn't have been doing this if you asked me at 35, what do you want to do in retirement? I would have given you a different answer than it was at 45 and at 55. So I think you got to live a little bit of life. But I think the FIRE movement has got people thinking about money. I think targeting somewhere around 50 to 55 to retire is perfect. You get to have a career that I wouldn't trade for anything. I loved my career. I don't want to go back to it, but I got a new journey I'm on. And, I think people like me telling the story, people like you telling the story, interviewing other people, I think people learn through YouTube. Sometimes I have to make short videos to get them to watch. If you want to get your video count up, leave a 1 minute short. Then people love 1 minute shorts, and then maybe they'll get hooked into a longer video. So I'm really encouraged about the youth and getting that understanding of finances.
And what's interesting, Joe? I mean, and by the way, just such inspirational words by you and just amazing insight. And it's interesting you mentioned the FIRE movement, because on DevKeel we also speak about the theme around minimalism, and I think some aspects of minimalism tie into the FIRE movement because it teaches you a lot about your perception of consumption, your perception of your inner journey, your perception of money itself, and it gives you a lot more acute focus, clarity, and discipline, with all aspects of your life. So I think there's some interesting overlap there.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really kind of engaging way, and especially which also the youth is seeing incorporated with minimalism and the FIRE movement, that aspect of money. So hopefully that'll catch on more and more. And I like how you it's just your words about speaking to retire into something. I think that's important because when, we don't have to have this over misconception of an idea that when you retire, that means you're done working, period. You're on the beach, smoking cigars, lighting $100 bills on fire, all that. It's not that. It's you doing another aspect of your life maybe you really truly want to do, and maybe you can earn money from it. That could be an extra thing. So
exactly right. You get it. It's another journey that you're starting, that you have time to do, that you're passionate about. It's not a destination. It's not a destination. A lot of people think, hey, it's just like you said, it's on the beach, and it's not. It's on the beach. It's on the mountains. It's helping people. It's being president of a nonprofit. It's coaching, mentoring people. It's helping out a neighbor. A neighborhood. Their tree fell down, and he works. I went over there with a chainsaw and cut it up while he was gone to work. Just as a favor. And I wasn't going to tell him that I did it, but he saw me doing it at the end of the day. And you do cool stuff like that. It's a new journey. And who wants to get to the destination? Like if you're sailing the Pacific Ocean or in the Caribbean or near Atlantis, whatever, you want to enjoy being on the water. You don't want to get off land and then get to another destination right away. You want to be enjoying the sea and the navigation and everything else, right.
So I use a lot of the ocean metaphors in other videos, so it always comes to the top of mind. Yeah. But Joe, just as we conclude, and also we're going to include Joe's book in the description and the show notes and the pinned comments, so check out his book. I'm sure it's absolutely fascinating, so we'll make sure to also include the link to your book, Joe. Just as we close this episode, and we'll figure out part 2 in the future, maybe we'll also bring on one of our leading minimalist guests, and she's really, really inspiring to speak with. We could have a really incredible discussion, fruitful discussion, the three of us, around minimalism and financial journey. I think that'd be quite interesting. Please comment below if you'd be interested in that discussion. As we conclude, Joe, and again, thank you so much for your incredible time. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. What is the last thing that you could leave our audience, especially younger audience, just to let them know, hey, you know what? You invest in yourself, as you were talking about before, and your financial future is worth it. And why would that be?
Why would that be? Well, I mean, money can cause a lot of stress in your life, and like I said earlier, if you don't do some of the big things right when you're young, it gets to be a slog. You may have to work till you're 70. So do some of those things right. The minimalism, I call it. Hey, I'm similar to that. It's just like things don't buy happiness. They really don't. They buy temporary happiness, but they don't buy long-term joy. So you get the money things right, your relationships will be better, your stress level will be down, your health will be better. Life is just much more enjoyable when you don't have that big anchor of financial problems hanging around your neck. I've been 33 years. I said I'm a dad's husband too. I'll be married 34 coming up here, and money issues. That's one of the top reasons for divorce and arguments is money, and you got to win the money game. You've got.
Sorry, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, there was a little delay there. No, that's a great point to leave it at this episode. Win at the money game. And I think that can just bring tremendous peace of mind, freedom, and just, you having a different sort of focus and clarity that you don't have to put on top of everything else that can make you stress in your life. So I think that's absolutely fascinating. Joe, thank you so much again for this amazing conversation. It wasn't enough time for everything else, but we'll find that another point. And I thank you so much for speaking to our audience in this episode, and we hope to see you soon.
All right. Really enjoyed it, Devin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. And remember, everyone, to like the video below, share the URL with anyone who you think would be interested in this incredible discussion with Joe. Check out his channel, subscribe to his channel, and also check out his book and all his other videos. I'm sure you'll get a lot of incredible information from it. So we'll see you in the next episode, and take care, everyone.